It was April 2024 and Barcelona was just one step away from reaching the Champions League semi-final. They were beating PSG 4-2 in aggregate and on course to meet Real Madrid in the final, which would set up the biggest El Clasico ever, until a red card changed everything.
It's a red card.
This is just one of the 11 red cards that changed football history forever. One of these red cards even helped Messi to win the Ballon d'Or. Sounds crazy, but it's true. But before we see what happened in that Barcelona game, let's go in chronological order, starting with a red card that changed World Cup history. Back in the year 1966, England won their only World Cup title ever. But what no one talks about is that if it weren't for a red card, this might have never happened. Because on their path to the title, in the quarterfinals, England faced Argentina. They didn't have Maradona yet, but still had an amazing squad that had come through the group of death with Spain and Germany. So when they faced England, Argentina was confident. But at the 35th minute, when it was 0-0, one of the most controversial moments happened. The referee called a foul for England, and the Argentine captain went to argue with the referee. The problem was that the referee didn't speak Spanish and thought that he was being disrespectful. So this happened. The referee sent him off, leaving everyone confused. A red card that completely changed the history of that World Cup, because with one man down, Argentina lost their chances of posing a threat, and in the 78th minute, England scored. Even with one extra player on the field, England only scored in the 78th minute. In other words, if it had been 11 versus 11, the English might have been eliminated that day. In this video, we'll see other 10 red cards that changed the World Cup, UEFA Champions League and even UEFA Euro history, from 1966 all the way to 2025. But if Argentina lost because of a red card, that wasn't the only time it will happen. A few decades later, in 1990, Argentina already was a much bigger team, featuring none other than Maradona, a powerhouse team that, after winning the previous tournament, reached the final again, facing Germany, where they played a more defensive game, holding off the attack and betting on counter-attacks. And the plan was working. Germany was barely threatening the keeper. But then in the 65th minute,
Fuller and Litbarski waiting in the middle, and Klinsmann gets brought crashing down. This is going to be... Oh, it's red! Monzon!
the Argentine defender got a straight red card, completely ruining their tactics. So with one last player, they could no longer hold on. With a penalty in the 85th minute, Germany won. If it hadn't been for the red card, Argentina might have held the score until the end, taking the game to penalties. And we all know what Argentina can do in penalty shootouts. Playing with one last man almost always ends in disaster. But ironically, 8 years later, it was their opponents who suffered the same fate. In the 1998 World Cup, Argentina faced England, in what was already becoming a massive rivalry. England had high expectations, with a squad full of stars, especially with the 23-year-old David Beckham. But when the game was tied 2-2 in the second half, it was exactly him who made a huge mistake. Beckham was fouled by Simeone, but while he was on the ground, he decided to retaliate by raising his foot, something he would bitterly regret.
For Beckham, it's a red card for David Beckham. Oh no.
With a childish mistake, Beckham was sent off. He was the main playmaker, so with him gone and England down to 10 men, their chances of scoring in regular time vanished. So they were dragged into a penalty shootout, where England ended up defeated. That was bad, but we'll see other red cards that changed history, from changing a World Cup final all the way to helping Messi to win the Ballon d'Or. But now let's go to a red card that happened years later, this time in the Champions League final. In the 2006 Champions League final, Arsenal faced Ronaldinho's Barcelona. It was Arsenal's first time in a Champions League final, and they had everything to win it. Managed by Arsene Wenger, they had only conceded 2 goals in 12 matches. So against Barcelona, Arsenal went on the attack. But just 18 minutes into the game, their keeper, Jens Lehmann, made a big mistake. Just 18 minutes, Arsenal were already down to 10 men, forcing the coach to take off a midfielder to bring on the backup keeper, weakening them. But even so, they managed to take the lead with Campbell. It seemed like Arsenal might pull it off. However, at one point, playing with one man down took its toll. In the 76th minute, Ito'o equalized, and in the 81st minute, Belletti turned it around. By 2-1, Arsenal ended up as runners-up. If Lemon hadn't been sent off, Arsenal could have been champions that year. Then after that final, it came the 2006 World Cup, a tournament marked by red cards. And in the quarterfinals, it was England who suffered from it. Again, England faced Portugal, still carrying the trauma of what happened in '98. But this time, instead of Beckham, the nightmare came with Wayne Rooney.
Is the substitute that Portugal wants to try and bring into this match as Rooney just keeps battling and battling, so dogged. Finally, there is a whistle.
In the 61st minute, with the match 0-0, Rooney fights for the ball but taps on a Portugal player. So it came the worst nightmare for England again.
He just got a red card.
8 years later, history repeated itself, leaving England with one last player on the field. This crippled them, which now lost its attacking power, being forced to play more defensively. So Portugal began to dominate. So much so that, when the game went to extra time, the Portuguese had 70% ball possession. England couldn't do anything. So when it came to penalties, they suffered a final blow. That was in the quarterfinals, but 4 years later, a red card changed the World Cup final. In 2010, Spain and the Netherlands faced off head-to-head for the title, where the game went to extra time at 0-0. The Netherlands were increasingly tired, but were holding on, betting on counter-attacks, until in the 109th minute,
Xavi, Iniesta. Well, it's certainly going to be a free kick. Is it going to be more than that? It is the end of the night for Johnny Heiting.
the Netherlands lost one of their players, leaving a gap in the defense. Then just 7 minutes later, they paid the price. Iniesta received the ball unchallenged and struck it into the corner to give Spain the title. If it weren't for that sending off, the match could have gone to penalties. So after Spain won the title in 2010, in the following year, Barcelona won the Champions League, making Messi win his third Ballon d'Or. But none of this would have happened if it weren't for a red card. In the round of 16, Barcelona faced Arsenal, where against all odds, the English team defeated them in the first leg. At Camp Nou, Arsenal just needed a draw to eliminate Barcelona. And that's exactly what was happening. After Messi scored the opener, Barcelona scored a known goal. The score was 3-2 to Arsenal on aggregate. All they had to do was hold on to knock out Guardiola's team, until one mistake changed everything.
Fabregas. Van Persie.
Van Persie had already received the yellow card, and now kicked the ball after the whistle. Something silly, but the referee was ruthless.
Van Persie is off. It's the second yellow card for Robbie Van Persie for kicking the ball away. So another twist to the drama.
In the 56th minute, Arsenal was left with one last player. What completely destroyed their tactics, and Barcelona took advantage of it.
Brilliant football, Xavi, but scores.
If Van Persie hadn't been sent off, Arsenal might have been able to hold off the attack, knocking Barcelona out in the round of 16 and taking away Messi's chances of winning the Ballon d'Or that year. But it's not just Messi. 2 years later, in 2013, Ronaldo probably wouldn't have won the Ballon d'Or if it weren't for a red card. In 2013, Real Madrid reached the semi-finals, with Ronaldo scoring a lot of goals on the knockout stage. But they were just one red card away from being eliminated in the round of 16. So Real Madrid faced Man United in Ferguson's final season in charge. They were so strong that they were on track to become English champions that year. And Real Madrid felt it, because in the first leg in Spain, they drew 1-1, and in the second leg in England, Sergio Ramos scored a known goal. Man United winning to the second half winning, on the verge of eliminating Real Madrid. If Madrid were knocked out, it would have been goodbye to Ronaldo's chances of winning the Ballon d'Or. Until in the 56th minute, everything changed. Nani ended up hitting Arbeloa, so the referee was ruthless again.
Nani sent off.
In exactly the same moment of the match that Van Persie was sent off, Nani got a red card, leaving United with one last player on the pitch. And if that was a coincidence, the outcome was the same too. Real Madrid turned the game around to eliminate Man United. With that, they ended up reaching the semi-finals, with Ronaldo scoring several goals, which got him enough votes to win the tightly contested Ballon d'Or that year. But if that red card changed Champions League history, the next one caused the national team to be eliminated from the UEFA Euro. In the 2020 UEFA Euro, the Netherlands were confident. Their own manager said that they were capable of winning the title. and they started by proving it, winning every match at the group stage. Next up was the Czech Republic, who, unlike the Netherlands, had struggled just to reach the round of 16. So in the first half of the game, the Netherlands had more goal-scoring chances. It was only a matter of time before they took the lead, until in the 55th minute.
Oh, there's a mistake. An handball by De Ligt, and the referee doesn't hesitate.
Initially, he only received a yellow card, until the referee checked VAR, saw him handling the ball and changed the decision.
Gets through, it's right on the edge of the box. He's not going to be challenged by anybody else in an orange shirt.
The Netherlands lost a key pillar in their defense, which took its toll just 13 minutes later. At the 68th minute, the Czechs scored with a header, and then Patrick Schick sealed the coffin. And if that was bad, 4 years later, an El Clásico was about to happen in the Champions League final, if it weren't for a red card. In 2024, Real Madrid reached the Champions League final, so Barcelona just had to eliminate PSG and Dortmund to meet them there. PSG was a tough opponent, but Barcelona pulled off the feat of winning the first leg in France. Now at home, they only needed a draw, but they went further, scoring with Rafinha. Barcelona was now leading by 2 goals. If they got past Paris, they would only have to defeat Borussia Dortmund to have an El Clásico in the final. But then this happened.
Now is that a penalty? It's just outside, sends him off. It's a red card. Araujo sent off.
At the 29th minute, Ronaldo Araujo, the cornerstone of Barcelona's defense, was sent off. Now PSG, with one player in advantage, ruined the match. They started piling on the pressure until Dembélé scored. So with Barcelona weakened, Xavi's team crumbled. Paris scored again with Vitinha, Mbappe on the penalty, and another from Mbappe. Barcelona went from leading 4-2 to losing 6-4, suffering a humiliation at home. Because of one sent-off, the dream of seeing El Clásico in the final went down in the drain. But that wasn't the last time a red card knocked the team out of the Champions League. In the following year, in 2025, Milan was on track to face their rivals Inter Milan in the round of 16. But first, they'd have to get past Feyenoord, where they lost the first leg, but equalized in the first minute of the match in San Siro. So Milan pushed forward, making 11 shots against 2, with 65% ball possession. They were 1 goal away from advancing to the next round, until in the 51st minute, Theo Hernandez, who already had a yellow card, dived inside the box. So the referee made a decision that would completely change the game.
For Theo Hernandez, who is going to get a red card. It's a second yellow card for the Milan left back.
He was sent off, what completely changed the game. From that moment on, Milan went from dominating to be dominated, until eventually it happened.
Hugo Bueno, tempting cross, brilliant goal! That's how they break them down!
With one player less, Milan couldn't recover, so they were eliminated. Then Inter managed to go all the way to the final. But if they had faced their rivals Milan instead of Feyenoord, the story could have been very different. So what did you think of this video? If you enjoyed it, I think you're gonna like this one too. So thanks for watching and bye.